Okay, so I'm going to be showing you how to build a an Android application that uses the XML designers and also be based on fragments and also to add another fragment to customize the default graph that is built in a sample application. So we're going to click on the new project. We're going to select, instead of using the empty view activity from previous week, we're going to use this basic view activities instead. Click on next. And then for this homework, we're going to say homework for Sean Kang, or whatever is the correct homework number. I'm going to keep Kotlin here, and we're also going to keep Kotlin here as well. And we're going to stay with 34 because you right now, to be able to upload an application to the Android Play Store, the target version needs to be 34. Okay, so now I've created the default application from the template, and it's completely loaded up. If this isn't showing up right away, it might be that your computer might be still trying to load it all up into Android Studio. It does take a few minutes to completely load and show it in this format by default. Again, you should be trying to get familiar with the Android Studio tool. You can change this from Android layout to a project layout in the project view. So you might feel more comfortable either with the project view or Android view. It doesn't really matter, whichever one you feel most comfortable doing. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to actually, it's already been set up. I mean, it created an application based on fragments. So if you open this up and expand these, you can see that there is the host activity and there are two fragments. And then if you expand here and expand also the navigation, the layouts, you will see now here that these are sort of the components of the fragment-based navigation. So if you open up this, you will see that we're going from one fragment to another, and then you can go back to the previous fragment, so they can just go back and forth to each other. If you view this, this is the visual way to display. If you click on this button here, you can see both the visual and the XML view. So you click there, and now you can see the XML representation of this graph. So here's the navigation object, and you can see that there's one fragment here, and then the second fragment here. So the first fragment is called first fragment, second fragment is called second fragment. From this first fragment, you can see that there's an action object and it's given a name. This is an arbitrary name that we create by just the way that we want to be able to better understand it. And we're saying that if you execute this action, we will go to this destination. So you can see that it's going to go to here. This is specifying there. In the same way, this fragment here has another action. This part here is user-defined action name. So we can call it anything we want here, but this is the default of how it created. And it's saying the destination for this action is going to the first fragment. Okay. And when this navigation is opened up for the first time, it's saying go to the first fragment by default when I open it up. Okay. So if you open up the activity, you will see the similar thing. It's actually loading the fragment inside. So if you go and you split the view here again, this is the graphical. This is the sort of a representation of what the main activity will look like. So it's saying the coordinator layout. It's doing some context tools of saying where this is then tied to the code matching with main activity. Here it's saying we're going to use an app bar layout. We're going to use a materials toolbar, and the app bar layout ending object which matches here. And then we're saying use the layout in main context main here. Okay. And then we're going to specify we want to have a floating action button, which you can see sort of there, right there on the bottom right. That's our floating action button. Now, keep in mind, this kind of action is different than the action we saw in the route, that the nav graph. This action here is really slightly different concept than what we see in this. This is a visual floating action button. You have to go to the content main and then look at it in XML and graphical view. You can see that it's saying this is what we're planning to put inside of the main activity, which is the navigation graph. So it's saying put a fragment here, and we're going to specify the navigation graph as how we define of how to control what gets put into this fragment. And you can see that this is a constraint layouts, and these things can be changed out. And the first fragment here. Okay, so it says there is a button and a text view. And then the second fragment, similar, very similar, just oops. So a button and then some text right below. Okay, so when we run this, click on the play button right next to this top area here. And make sure I can see my running devices. Okay, oops. I'm gonna put this in a larger window so that we can see it better. There we go. So keep in mind, there's actually three dots here. This one here is the Android Studio simulator options. You click that and change different settings of the Android Studio simulator. This here is more of a visual menu. So again, it was docked, pinned like this before, and I changed it to view mode to window, so that it's a floating window on top of the Android Studio. So here's how the app has run by default, and as you can see, it opened up the first fragment by default. And if I click on here, then it goes to the second fragment. And click this button again, and go back to the first fragment. Okay, and we can actually click here if you want to. But we have to put some actual code here. Right now, it will just launch a little toast window, a toast message window when we click on that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to learn how to modify this application and put another fragment in here. Okay.